Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some absolutely paradigm-shifting insights from Dr. Ben Bikman. We're going to look at exactly why modern medicine is kind of missing the mark by focusing entirely on calories and glucose, and why we desperately need to shift our focus over to an insulin-centric view of human health. So let's just jump right in with a pretty provocative hook. When we hear insulin resistance, we usually just think of type 2 diabetes, right? But Dr. Bikman's research shows it's actually a primary contributor to a staggering number of chronic conditions. We're talking Alzheimer's, infertility, cardiovascular disease, the whole shebang. Why? Because insulin is one of the very few hormones that literally affects every single cell in your entire body. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be hitting 1. The hidden root cause, 2. Fast versus slow resistance, 3. The fat cell paradox, 4. Reversing insulin resistance, and finally 5. The GLP-1 nuance. Let's get into it. Section 1. The hidden root cause. Let's start by looking at why so many lean people with seemingly perfect, normal health metrics, are actually harboring a massive, totally undetected metabolic disaster. Think of your metabolic health like a giant iceberg. Now, conventional medicine operates on a glucose-centric paradigm. They measure your blood sugar, and if it's normal, they tell you you're perfectly healthy. But here's the thing. That entirely misses the early Cold War happening beneath the surface in your bloodstream. Years before your blood sugar ever rises, your body is pumping out massive amounts of insulin just to keep that glucose in check. If we shift to an insulin-centric paradigm and measure the insulin first, we catch the canary in the coal mine years, sometimes decades, before diabetes ever sets in. Now, you might be wondering how to spot this metabolic Cold War without running off to a lab for a blood test. Well, your skin is actually the window to your metabolic soul. High insulin often reveals itself right on the surface through 2 physical markers. You've got acanthosis nigricans, which is a dark, kind of crinkled tissue paper-like skin around the neck, and the sudden unexplained appearance of skin tags. All right, section 2, fast versus slow resistance. We really need to categorize how exactly the body develops this resistance, because surprisingly, it happens on 2 totally different biological timelines. So the crucial takeaway here is that fast insulin resistance can happen in literally a matter of hours. It's driven by daily triggers, things like acute inflammation, elevated stress hormones, and high insulin spikes. But the absolute mind-blowing driver here is sleep deprivation. It's crazy how fast this biological reaction is. Even just one single night of poor sleep completely wrecks your cortisol rhythms. It makes your body demonstrably, instantly insulin resistant the very next day. On the slow side, which develops over months and years, the true cellular culprit isn't just the physical act of storing fat. Actually, scratch that. It's more specific. It's a particular type of lipid called ceramides. When your diet and lifestyle promote the creation of ceramides in your tissues, these lipids literally hijack your cells. They physically block the insulin receptor's signaling pathway. Section 3. The fat cell paradox. And this brings us to a really fascinating biological mystery. Why are some visibly overweight people metabolically perfectly healthy, while some really lean people are horribly sick? To answer this, we have to ask, why does how you store fat matter way more than how much fat you store? It turns out your health isn't dictated by the amount of fat on your body. It's dictated by how your unique body handles excess energy. Our bodies basically handle this excess energy in 2 completely different ways. You've got hyperplasia, which is when your body creates brand new, small fat cells. And honestly, this is relatively safe and metabolically healthy. But then there's hypertrophy. This happens when your body can't create new cells, so it just balloons your existing fat cells to maximum capacity. These massively hypertrophic fat cells become hypoxic, they're essentially suffocating, and they pump out all these pro-inflammatory signals, which creates severe, full-body insulin resistance. When we compare where this fat actually lives, things get pretty serious. Visceral belly fat, the fat surrounding your organs, is incredibly dangerous precisely because it's trapped in a confined cavity. It literally doesn't have the room to multiply, so it can only grow through that dangerous hypertrophy. Those expanding, sick fat cells eventually become completely insulin resistant and start leaking fat directly into your bloodstream, which then spills right over into your liver, driving fatty liver disease. Moving on to section 4, reversing insulin resistance. Now that we understand the cellular mechanics behind all of this, let's focus entirely on the good news, how we actually fix it.
90 days. That is the exact number of days it took for newly diagnosed type 2 diabetics to completely reverse their condition down to non-diabetic levels in a recent clinical study out of Utah. And get this, they didn't use a single pill or injection. They pulled this off using strictly lifestyle and dietary interventions.
Dr. Bikman's overarching protocol for this reversal really boils down to 3 simple but absolutely profound steps. First, control your carbohydrates. Avoid the processed boxes and bags, and stick to whole fruits and vegetables. Second, prioritize quality protein. And third, do not fear the natural fat that comes paired with that protein in nature. Following these rules keeps your insulin exceptionally low, which naturally raises your metabolic rate and gives your body so much more metabolic wiggle room. Also, meal timing is absolutely critical here. Eating right before bed is just disastrous for your metabolic health and your sleep. Digesting food late at night spikes your blood sugar and raises your body heat. Then, as your blood sugar inevitably crashes, it plunges you into a hypoglycemic state. This instantly activates your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. You wake up feeling hot, heart pounding. It makes late night snacking, or those dreaded meat sweats, a massive hidden driver of modern insomnia. Now, to gain even more of that metabolic wiggle room we talked about, you can deploy what are called exercise snacks. Doing just 10 to 15 minutes of physical activity, like a quick set of brisk bodyweight squats immediately after a heavy meal, is basically a cheat code. It forcefully opens up the glucose stores in your muscle tissue. And the best part? Your body doesn't even need to use insulin to do it. And hey, if you want a really easy, science-backed, quick hack, consuming short-chain fatty acids. Taking a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar diluted in water right before a starchy meal actually mimics the effects of exercise at the cellular level. It naturally lowers your blood glucose curve by telling your liver, hey, stop pumping out extra glucose. Section 5, the GLP-1 nuance. Finally, we absolutely must address the elephant in the room regarding modern metabolic health, and that's the massive, widespread explosion of GLP-1 weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. First off, it's super important to understand the mechanics here. GLP-1 is a naturally occurring gut hormone, and these drugs aggressively amplify its effects. They effectively force you to eat less by drastically delaying gastric emptying, making food literally sit in your stomach for up to 20 hours. It's kind of astonishing when you really think about it. But taking them at the massive doses currently being prescribed can be a recipe for extreme gastrointestinal distress, constant nausea, and really significant muscle loss. Dr. Bikman proposes a totally different, highly nuanced approach to these medications. Instead of heavy doses that basically force starvation and create a lifelong reliance where you just regain the weight the second you stop, he suggests utilizing a tiny fraction of the standard dose. This microdosing strategy acts as a temporary 90-day crutch. It's strictly used to quiet the noise in your brain, manage severe carbohydrate cravings, and permanently rewire your eating habits, allowing you to eventually cycle off the drug entirely. What you should really take away from this explainer is that shortcuts just won't last. True, lasting metabolic health requires permanent lifestyle changes. Like Dr. Bikman states, weight loss isn't magic. It is quite literally the physical journey of safely deflating those dangerous, hypertrophic fat cells for good. And that leaves us with this final thoughts. By shifting your paradigm, by measuring your insulin rather than just your glucose, managing your sleep, deploying exercise snacks, and prioritizing real food over boxed carbs, you can finally stop just treating isolated symptoms. So what does this all mean for you? Are you ready to stop trimming the branches and finally cut down the sick tree of chronic disease? Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.